Welcome to Know Happiness, a podcast around how we seek, find, and sustain happiness in some of the most unusual places. Today, I have a very special guest, Rebecca. Rebecca, welcome to Know Happiness.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah, so one of the very first questions I ask everyone is, what does happiness mean to you?
I think in different seasons of your life, happiness transforms. At one point, I would have given you a different answer, but throughout my adult life and all the challenges I had, it's more simplicity. I really enjoy not having to be at too many places at once, but also being very present with people brings the happiness to me. So I kind of think cutting out the chaos has brought happiness to me, and really being present with what is given to me without worrying so much about the next steps.
Ooh, I like that. Mm-hmm. And I can definitely take your suggestions around what happiness means to you. So it really sounds like happiness means presence, taking things, keeping things simple, stripping it down to just being in the moment. Yes. Well, so I've known you for a couple of years now, off and on. We met through a mutual teacher, and I had reached out to him to find a medium. And you were the name that he suggested. And so I called you, and it feels like it was like springtime or something, because you had come over to our house, sat on the patio, and I just immediately connected with you. I just thought you were fantastic. And your process is I've never seen a medium, so I didn't really know what to expect. It was for my mother-in-law, who has gone to several. And your process seemed different than what I had thought, as far as you sitting and you taking a name and then you thinking about it and like just kind of journaling. I want you to walk me through your process and kind of explain what you do.
Originally, my process was based on Be Love Healing School, Dr. Matt's. And that is the foundation that I grew from. And then I realized, I can actually do it with writing down. And the funny story is, we were watching Netflix with Tyler, the medium,
yeah. Mm-hmm.
and my husband's like, you got to get a pad of paper. And I'm like, okay, because I would do this a lot, and I couldn't figure that out. So I do much better when I funnel my messages on paper or doodle. So I don't do actually a lot of preparation anymore. I used to channel a whole bunch. I used to try to get in meditation. Now I just jump in it, because believe I'm already in channel majority of my life, but I just didn't realize it. So I just write things down, and whatever I feel, draw objects, whatever, and it just comes. Now, it always comes to the right of me. So if I have ringing in the right ear, I know that a spirit is coming in.
Interesting.
Mm-hmm. And if everything, pictures, voices, everything are to the right of me, and then transferred into paper.
So that's interesting in that, like, the right side is associated with the masculine side.
Oh, yeah.
So it's strange. I would think that being able to really be in channel and to communicate with those who've crossed over, it would be more of a feminine, but it's not, clearly for you.
Well, and it's funny you say that, because I never thought about that, but I'm much more grounded when I'm in channel. I'm much more definitive answers immediately. I don't overthink. I just go at it. Any big decisions I've ever made in my life has been through intuition, not left part, which is feminine, where I overthink it and get too emotional. No offense.
No, yeah, I wouldn't believe that.
No offense to us women. But so, yeah, what I've been told is the right is spirit to others. The left is your own intuitive receiving.
Interesting. So let's back up a little bit, because I want to know how you found this gift that you have.
So I would say about between 6 and 8 years old, I would have voices in my ears, but it was like almost chaos, like, and it was like chatting, like chattering. And so I didn't know what to do with this. Like I was really distracted by it. So I told my mom, and she thought because of my birth defect when I was younger, I had 21 surgeries and procedures by the time I was 2. She thought it was something to do with that, like seizure type, post-trauma.
Yeah, sure.
So we went to a neurologist. They checked me out. Everything was fine. I still had the chattering happening, and it wasn't very, I couldn't understand the chatter at all. It was just, and I would just have to like leave a room, or like it was happening when I would take a test and I'd have to go excuse myself. And then eventually the chatter went away and I started seeing spirit. And the vividness of the spirit world was coming in very strong. So I would make comments like, I think I see something. And but then I wasn't getting the chatter. I wasn't getting actual physical messages, but I was just seeing people. And then eventually the seeing became into premonitions, where I would actually physically know something was going to happen before it would happen. So I didn't tell anybody until it kept on happening after.
Yeah, there's like consistency to it.
So I'm like, okay, I better tell my family like when I'm receiving these things. And I would say that was about 13 or 14. I kind of brushed my gift under the carpet. Like I was like, I don't want to deal with it. And I went into corporate world and did all the things that were completely opposite of spiritual world. I think when I'm in a very logical minded role, it almost goes away. I think I block it. Like when I was in a corporate America where we're dealing with spreadsheets and all the things, it was like completely blocked. But after my sister passed in 2010, it started up again pretty strongly.
Like full force.
Yeah. She was like, okay, you're going to do something about this gift. On the way to the hospital, because I flew in because she had a surgery that they made an error. And so she was on life support. And I flew in and I'm on the way to the hospital. And I say, she's going to pass, but I'm going to make something about her passing. I just don't know what it is.
Make something. You mean like make something of the...
Yes, like make it as a positive thing instead of a negative thing.
Gotcha.
And I had no clue what I was talking about. I even at the cemetery knew exactly where she was being buried before I even told them, or before we were even told.
Oh, wow.
I just like had visions, and I had visions of her passing before it happened. So
let me pause for a minute. So like you knew that she was sick before that she was sick, or you just...
She was morbidly obese.
Gotcha.
So, and she had diabetes. But I kept on getting reoccurring nightmares or like kind of premonition dreams of her passing. So when it happened, it was really not a surprise at all, even though it was the surgeon's fault. It had nothing to do with her health. So, so I had that premonition of her passing, and I think my mom, she has some similar gift to me, had the premonition as well.
Wow.
Yeah. And there was a lot of big monumental moments where my gift came in when my dad, I all of a sudden felt he had colon cancer. I just knew it, and I had no reason to believe it or know it. And so I called my mom and said, where's Daddy? I need to talk to him. I need to tell him, or I need to tell you, he has colon cancer. He's going to need surgery. He's going to need chemo. Like I went run down just in one conversation. Well, it happened to be that he did need a colonoscopy. Well, he's in remission now. So
he did indeed.
Everything was exactly what I had mentioned. And he, in fact, chose his surgery date for his colon resection on my birthday. Just because he was like, okay, I think she's got something, so let's put it on her birthday. So, yeah.
So, I mean, first of all, he owes you like a debt of gratitude. I mean, you literally, who knows what would have happened had you not had this premonition that... he wasn't well.
Yeah, and it comes in very like almost anxiety, like I'm jumping out of my skin. So I know when it's fear, and I know when it's actually something to talk to someone about, because I'm very cautious about how I tell people, because I don't want to just tell people anything. I want to make sure that it's an actual premonition and from spirit, not my internal worry.
Sure.
And family, that's the other thing with spirit. You have a protective veil. So I know more about a stranger than I do my own family, because there's a protective veil up, and it can be exposed or like unveiled at different times in your life, but it's not always. It's kind of tricky. So it's actually easier for me to read a complete stranger than my family.
Wow.
Yeah. I prefer not to read people that I really know, because then I'm like, oh, well, now this is going to be really difficult.
Well, probably hard for the discernment of what is you, what is spirit.
Exactly.
I find that even in Reiki sessions, that I'm like, well, I already know this about them. So is this really guidance from that? Or is this my opinion?
Yeah. It's just your brain? Or is this? Yes, exactly.
So you were saying you had some health challenges. And I know when we met that you were still kind of dealing with those. And to whatever level you're comfortable sharing, I mean, because you look like a completely different person.
Yeah,
I barely recognized you. And so it's just like such proof to me that it's inside and out. Everything all comes together or works. You know what I'm saying?
Yes, exactly. Yeah. Well, I was born with my intestines on the outside. So I spent the first 18 months of my life in a hospital. And so that started the journey. So there was some limitations growing up. There was, some hurdles that I had that some children didn't have, with malabsorption and energy and all those things. But I lived a relatively good childhood with not too many hiccups. I was told that I would die, or my baby would die, if I had a child. So I was basically driven that the only way I would ever have a child is if I adopted. And that was just my mindset, So prior to having my son, I got Lyme disease. And I basically was deteriorating. And it was went from working 60 hours a week, running all the time, active, athletic, to can I actually do this today?
Can I even get out of bed?
Yeah. So I worked at a senior community where I couldn't even push the wheelchair at one point. So I downsized my days, and I took a leap of faith, and I just quit my job because I didn't know what to do. And that's when I really indulged myself in yoga and the stillness of life, and did some homeopathic stuff. During that period of time, I had also miscarried. And I had miscarried quite a bit in the past years. And I had this intriguing thought, why am I miscarrying? But at the same time, I was like, why am I even asking this? I can't even barely do anything.
What
what is
doing?
wrong with me?
Yeah.
But I went to a place to check what's wrong. Why am I miscarrying? And they found a tumor on my pituitary gland that was secreting high levels of prolactin, which would make me seem like I'm pregnant already. So I took a medicine, and then all of a sudden, I became pregnant. Well, not all of a sudden. It was like a Virgin Mary, but it was Barcelona and a couple of drinks. And so I became pregnant thinking, I'm going to lose this child. There's no way I'm having a child. And nope, he was as strong as he could ever be. And when he came, I had him at 39 weeks, natural birth. I did really well. I was very strict with myself, but at the 11th month, my micronutrients, my macronutrients, everything was at negatives. I just drained my body from the Lyme and the pregnancy.
Sure.
So this comes back into that intuitive thoughts. I was in the shower, and all of a sudden I couldn't breathe. I felt someone took my air out of my body. And I said, I have cancer. And I didn't know where, I didn't know how, I just knew I had cancer. So when he was 11 months old, I had found out that I had melanoma. I thought, okay, one-time deal, stage 1, no problem. But it ended up being an immune system concern. So I've had several surgeries with many, many biopsies. It wasn't sun-derived. It was all immune system driven. So when you met me, I was probably deficient in every possible vitamin known to man. I was really lost and just overwhelmed. So it was kind of compounding, unbelievably depressed. But it was really wild because all of a sudden one day I'm at my lowest point that I think I could have been at that time. I said, there's something I need to be doing and I don't know what it is, but I'm going to figure it out. And I had thought about going to yoga school just to get my mind on something else, even though I didn't think physically, what am I doing? And I met with a very good girlfriend, Mandy. She was a yoga instructor with me. We sat for coffee, and I happened to just impromptu tell her that her grandmother's next door and tell her. And she called me the next day and said, what are you doing? Why aren't you doing anything about this? And she is the reason Flutters of Hope even exists, because she started my business for me. Like, she connected me with someone for a website, for pictures, all the things. And if it wasn't for her, I would have never believed in myself. And I also would have never gotten well, because I did not realize the link of my gift and my health. I did not realize that I'm my healthiest when I'm following suit in what I'm supposed to do from God.
Yeah.
And mind, body, soul, it goes together. So following, not saying anything wrong with Western medicine, but following their guidelines and their prompts almost put me in the grave. So I really pulled back and said, okay, what is for me? Because this is not working. What is for me? And I slowly started saying no to people, no to doctors, no, and really intuitively tapping into what's working for me, not for everybody else. And I started doing my own research and started just doing and eventually I started being able to implement food back in my diet. Things were slowing down on the cancer. All these things started happening as I was building my business.
Isn't that interesting?
It's so wild.
So Flutters of Hope is the name of your business.
Yep, Flutters of Hope. Yep.
Okay. Yeah, because you hadn't even really started that. I mean, it was kind of a thought and you were going to people's homes, but I don't believe you even had a space quite yet. A few months later, then you got a space.
Yes.
And now you're in a different space, I believe.
Yes. I kind of until I could find the spot that really resonated with me, I had gone to a couple different spaces, and this one I love. And I also do a lot of Zoom. Zoom is actually one of my most favorite, believe it or not.
Really?
Because energetically, you can stay in your container, and energetically, they can stay in their container. So
you're not taking on...
which is easier.
Yeah.
So just recently this year, I said no to my dermatologist of doing another surgery. I've had nine surgeries and 50 biopsies. And I said no to a biopsy. And I started, intuitively, I just felt I needed to do a very alternative approach. So I got a Rife machine, which is a radio frequency machine, and I've started ivermectin. And I am blown away. She doesn't even, my skin looks like a totally different skin. My Lyme is almost completely gone. I don't even feel it. And I've been dealing with this since 2017. It's 2025. And it's just this year, especially since the ivermectin, that I'm a free woman.
Wow.
Yeah. So, but that was intuitively. And the way I found out about the ivermectin is from my clients. They have helped me through all of my hurdles. And I started it with helping them. And
Right.
in return, it's been such a beautiful experience to have an exchange of gifts to one another.
What reciprocity.
Yes.
It is funny how that happens. When we think that we're helping someone, how often that it ends up like, wow, I didn't realize I needed this much help.
Exactly.
Or how powerful like a symbiotic relationship like that can be.
Exactly. And so that, I think, me taking really ownership of, taking control of my life and my body, because I spent a large portion of my childhood saying, okay,
Right.
they just did what they wanted with me.
Yeah.
I was like, I had no consent. There was no asking me. They just did what they wanted. And now I don't even say I have a birth defect because I don't live like one.
Right.
I have one.
Well, and our words are so powerful, and how we see ourselves and how we explain ourselves to other people. As they say, words cast spells. That's why it's called spelling.
Yeah.
And so maybe if you've known this life when you were little of just being sick and you just perpetuated, that was your identity.
Yes. And I spoke it into reality.
Yeah.
Whereas I believe we can have different lifetimes within the same lifetime. Mm-hmm. So my lifetime of being sick with this birth defect is over.
It's complete.
I've healed it.
Yeah.
And the Lyme had to happen. And that's the big thing with spirituality is trying to pull yourself from that victim-based and really realize that this is all meant to happen and it's all part of the plan.
Yeah.
And accepting that helped me heal also. And saying no to people. Because I was
Were you a people pleaser?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I was the happiest if everybody else was happy. But then I realized, that's not making me happy anymore.
It's not working. Mm-mm. Yeah, and I think it's really important for people, I think being in a spiritual community, we know this, but like when you would tell someone who just got diagnosed with cancer, like, congratulations, you've got one of the greatest teachers living in your body. That's what a friend of mine would say.
Yeah.
And, I think initially there's a knee-jerk reaction,
Like, what the hell?
fuck you, because we are so accustomed to that victimhood.
Yes.
And I think it's also okay to feel like a victim.
Absolutely.
It's just we don't get to stay there.
It's part of the healing journey.
Yeah.
If we don't identify the victim-based or the victim period of it, then how do we heal? We have to identify.
Right.
And I liked when you said that because it was funny. When Dr. Matt had told me, don't keep on saying, please don't say fight, say clear the cancer, clear the cancer. And calling yourself, and I hope this doesn't come across wrong, but I don't call myself a cancer survivor. I am in definition, but I don't want to attach myself to that.
I think that's very smart. So how would you, do you even, when you share your story, what would you say?
Well, I think that cancer brought me back to my soul, and what I needed to thrive. It reminded me of being more conscious with the energies that I allow in. It made me more conscious with my time, how I spend my time. I used to be a to-do list person that I wouldn't feel good about myself until I had everything done and guilted myself if I wasn't at the gym, all the things. And now I'm like, if I don't want to go, I don't get done. And I think it's freed me.
Sure.
At the time, it was the worst thing in the world because I had an 11-month-old baby, and I'm thinking, oh my gosh, this keeps on happening. What is going on? But I believe that any big event that happens to you is supposed to be an awakening for you and to shift you in a different way and create a different life.
Sure.
And rewire what's not working. But that's hard to tell someone, especially first diagnosis. That's just not the place and time to do it.
Right.
until they're at the other side.
Well, and I think that they really are opportunities for growth.
Yes.
For evolution, for
Absolutely.
change. It's just, and the process is often very ugly and painful. And there's a lot of suffering involved. And what's great for me, like in where I'm finally getting to, is that I'm realizing I don't have to suffer to get the lesson.
Yes, you don't have to let the wheels fall off. I thought I had to be a ride or die with family, with friends, with work, with everything in my life. And I'm like, no, I'm not doing that.
Yeah.
And some people may think, oh gosh, what happened to Rebecca? But I'm like, I don't want to go there anymore.
Yeah.
The wheels don't need to fall off, and I'm not going to spare my health or my sanity for anything.
For others' happiness.
Yes, absolutely. Well, and the happiness really comes, you have to generate that.
Right.
You can help someone be happy, but really they have to stimulate that before you even, it's going to be very short-lived and codependency if someone's relying on you to make them happy. So.
Well, you and I have kind of a similar story around yoga, because what I'm hearing is that yoga has really been the ever-present force in your life that's returned you to this healthy lifestyle or finding your soul's purpose. It was like yoga was kind of that constant that and where you met your dear friend that got you down this path and owning what it is that you're here to do.
Yeah.
Same story for me. I met my healer teacher in a yoga class and fell in love with yoga. And I really, truly believe yoga, it's such a spiritual, yes, it's physical, but to me, it's way more spiritual and connecting and has saved my life, like literally saved my life.
I truly believe that. And I walked into Darling Yoga thinking, okay, I'm going to strengthen my body, physique-wise, and I walked out knowing I'm enough.
Yeah.
When I'm not enough.
Mm-hmm.
Darling Yoga transforms people.
Yeah.
That school, everyone walked out a different person. And yes, we learned tools and teachings and poses, but in all reality, I was like, oh, okay, I don't have to be all these things to love me. Mm-hmm. And you are where you're at.
Yeah.
In yoga.
Yeah.
I started with yoga shortly after my sister passed. I had a mat from Marshall's, and I would sit in my little shitty apartment in the plaza. That probably is why I had mold. And I would do Jillian Michaels'
oh my gosh,
yoga burn.
Yeah.
And I did that, and it really, and I always felt exercise was my love language and my way of healing my anxious brain. And so after my sister passed, I did that. And then during COVID, I always went back to the mat. It was like I did Calm app, SOS, 5 minutes. Sometimes even if I was sick, I still did it, did something. So even today, I don't practice yoga as much as I should. Sometimes I weave in and out of it, but overall, it is always my go-to to come back to.
And we're not going to use the word should, Rebecca.
Okay.
We're not going to use that word. We're going to say, I would like to get back to yoga
I would like to go
more.
back.
I would like to do a little bit more because I'm with you.
Yeah.
Right now I'm injured and doing yoga is kind of at the bottom of my physical abilities. And
yes.
It just sucks.
But then you can also practice yoga without the physical postures.
Yes.
So we can do things in different ways with breath work, and
it's not all the asanas. There's so much more to it. And I had started yoga teacher training myself, not because I wanted to teach. I was like, I'm never going to teach yoga. It was for the knowledge.
Yes.
It was for the process, and it was a really cool process. All the reading and just the introspection that you have or that you're encouraged to do while you're in it. And you had a different experience because you actually were in school with other people.
Yes.
Which is awesome. And part of me now is like, oh man,
You can do it again.
you know what?
Can do it.
I've thought about that. Maybe I'll take the what's it, the 400 hour? Or is
Yeah, you
I've
could
got
even
the
do
200.
Oh yeah, you want to do probably more, but you could do 200 if you really wanted to. It'd just be a different experience.
That's true.
But the 400 would be probably awesome to do.
Right. Well, you know what's weird is I actually have started teaching it. Out of the blue, I decided, well, it's kind of silly. The thing that had held me back, I mean, talk about, these voices and limiting beliefs. It was
Yes.
like I was terrified that I wasn't going to do it perfectly. And all I had to do was record myself for 10 minutes doing a flow in front of my camera. I drug my feet for a year and a half on it. Finally, I was like, okay, if I commit and say I'm going to teach a class, then it'll kickstart me to get that completed.
Yes.
So I'm glad to say that I did finally get my certificate and have been
Yay.
teaching once a week, which is good.
Yes, it's perfect.
Yeah.
And I think everything is in the right, perfect timing.
Divine timing.
Yeah. And no, like you said, no pressure, no shoulds.
Yes. We're not going to shit all
as
over
it
ourselves.
Needs it be, as it needs to be.
So let's get back. I want to talk more about being a medium because I think there's a lot of misconceptions.
Yes.
There's a lot of like naysayers. What would you say to someone who was like, "Oh, that's BS. That's not real. She's just taking your money."
Yeah. Well, I have people that walk into my door like that, and it's fine. I honor and respect anyone's point of view and opinions. Everybody has a different life experience and viewpoint. But I would say that the things that I've received are unexplainable. And the knowing that I have, there's no way.
Right.
It blows my mind how often I can know the things I know because it surprises me sometimes, and if we just stick with 3D, which 3D is this life, that we're in, the tangible life, and then there's 5D, which is the afterlife. What are we doing? Like, there's a lot hard things in this life. But there's so many miracles and things that happen that have to be a part of that spirit world and your higher being, God, or whomever you believe in. And just alone the times that I have told clients, I think you have to get checked for a diagnosis and them come back and say thank you. Just that alone makes me know.
Well, and even if you're wrong,
Right.
If there's even just a tiny little chance that you're right.
Absolutely. And then the other thing, I was born and raised Catholic. So a part of me shunned my own gift because of my upbringing and where does this stand and what do I do with this? And when my friend told me to build a business with dead people, seeing dead people, and I'm like, there is no way I'm doing that. At least I'm just not charging because I felt like, is that a sin? Well, how does that look in religion wise? And I really drug my feet and I would just discount like like I was so nervous. But then very quickly I realized I have something. I had realized I'm not just delivering messages that are very exact. I'm helping people learn to heal. Now, I cannot heal you. You heal yourself. And that was a big thing as I was watching people heal themselves. And
You were the catalyst.
Yeah, get over that bump of not being able to get out of bed because your child committed suicide. Mediumship is not just crystal ball, I see you in the future with this tall, dark, and handsome person. It's much bigger than that because it's understanding that the spirit world is arm's length away from us. It's not up in the sky. They're with us at all times. They're just in a different dimension. We're all energy.
Mm-hmm.
And I believe that a lot of times people that are skeptical might be more fearful than skeptical of the unknown, or fearful of judgment with religion. You know, I was born and raised Catholic. There's a lot of beauty between being Catholic, but there was a lot of threats. And if you do this, you go to hell, blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, wait a minute. We're all human, you know, God.
Right.
And, you know, there's messengers in the Bible. There's messengers that have that intermediate connection with the spirit world to be able to offer and relay. A surgeon that works on a little baby's heart, they're channeling.
Mm-hmm.
They may go to school, but there's a talent from God given to be able to work on little baby hearts. It's impossible for me not to believe that. That my surgeon, Dr. Singh, which he's not living, I don't think anymore, was a God-given gift to me. From the medium standpoint, I do believe that there are some mediums that are out there for money, psychics or whatever out there for money. But also there's doctors out there for money.
Right.
It's
Quacks.
It's intention.
Yeah.
That's all it comes down to. What is your intention when you're doing this of service job and generating money? So anyway, I believe that I've had way too many scenarios to not even think about the people that, you know, I respect everyone's opinion, and I'm not someone that's like, get out of my face. I'm like, cool, bring it on. Tell me what you think. But I don't allow it to even sidetrack me.
Right. Well, the one thing that's helped me is that it's none of my business what other people think about me.
Yeah, because they're going to think either way.
Everybody's going to have their own opinion. I certainly have my own opinion about things. You know, I try and be more open-minded, but it really, what does it matter? To thine own self be true. You're living in your truth. You're doing your work, and whether people are skeptical or not is kind of on them.
Yes. And I think that it's a more unknown area.
Yeah.
That people are like, how would you know this? Because it's not super, super tangible.
Yeah.
And it's like, how would you know that? And sometimes I don't get all exact. So it can look a little, but there's also a lot of spirits that can be talking at once.
Everybody's like, I want to talk.
And I'm like, okay, hold the phone. Let's see what's going on. And, you know, it also is in direct relation to who I'm with, because if they're blocked or non-believer, it can also hinder the communication.
Sure.
So I feel like in the bigger picture, I just have became so much more confident in my gift since I've seen hundreds, not thousands, but hundreds of people over the years.
I can tell.
Thank
like
you.
I said, you're just like a different person. I literally am just shocked and amazed at
Thank you.
just this transformation in you. And it is confidence, and it is belief, and it is living in divine purpose. And, you know, it's amazing.
Thank you.
I want to hear a story from a client, clearly no names or anything like that, but I'd just love to know or let people hear like something that was like, wow, there's absolutely no way you would know that.
Just recently I had a Zoom session where mom and son were together, and they wanted to connect with, you know, the loved one, father, and her husband. All of a sudden I was like, did he like to paint? Like, I'm not just talking about a picture. I'm talking about like house, like, these aren't the exact words. They're like, oh, well, yeah, he was a painter. And so then we started talking about his, just his characteristics. I can very pinpoint personality very quickly because of the energy and feeling. So just explaining his personality. And then I said, why do I keep on seeing number one around you being his son? And he said, well, he called me number one son.
Oh, okay.
So I said that. This is one of the most recent. This was on Sunday or Friday. So that was 2 examples from that session. Another session, her dog passed away. And I said, I keep on seeing a fireplace. Maybe, did the dog sit at the fireplace? She goes, well, right before the Zoom, I put his ball up by his urn on the fireplace mantle. So okay. And then I was like, wait a minute, I see a spirit. I feel a spirit right behind you. And she's like, well, this is exactly where my godfather sat. So those type of things, how would I know that?
And they're just endless. I'm sure you just have endless stories like that.
It is. And even with my family growing up, it was just how do you explain this? And my husband, we were dating, and I had seen his dad that had passed away. And I was like, how do I tell this dude that I'm dating? And he's going to think I'm still drunk from the night before. So I was like, how do I tell him that I just saw his dead dad? So I'm like, okay, how do I open this up? And then I was like, okay, you're going to think I'm crazy, but I saw your dad last night. He was sitting on the edge of the bureau wearing a white shirt with khakis, I think it was. And he's like, well, this is crazy because since I met you, my dad's been visiting me. There's been so many. Each session has its own vivid things that come through.
Unique.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
So when you are in channel and you're starting to get these messages, I know you said at one time you were hearing it as a kid. How does it come through to you now?
Keywords, images, people, smells. I have basically all the senses.
I was going to say, so it sounds like you've got the clairsentience, clairvoyant, all of them.
Yeah, just not all at once. So it just depends on the, they run the show. I'm just the communicator.
Yeah, you're the vessel.
I really have no control. I do have control in the way that if I don't want to interact with a spirit, I can tell them I don't want to, especially which I don't get very often, but if it's a negative entity, I don't want to deal with that.
Yeah, how do you do, because let's face it, there are some dark entities and energies out there, and they're wanting to attach. How do you, you obviously stay very grounded and, protected, but, have you had experience with that, and what do you do?
So I also directly correlated to whenever I have received negative entities, I was not good in my life. So since I've been really grounded and more intuitively aligned, I don't get it at all.
Wow.
Yeah. And but there was a time period that I was very distraught of my health, and just a lot of things were going wrong in my life that I think almost my frequency
was like a siren.
It was like opening doors that shouldn't be open. But I also believe in intention. So I bring forth only love and light. I don't welcome any of that. Now, I do also believe, this is kind of the clincher, that a negative entity might need help. Right. And just like a negative human could really want to be better. So I'm willing to help if it isn't detrimental. I'm willing to say, okay, what do you need? I've had that happen where I go into a home to clear the home and I bring them with me.
Yeah.
I want to help whoever I need to help or is willing to receive the help. But at the same time, I also close my business hours. I say, okay, tonight I'm going to sleep.
Yeah.
Or when I'm with girlfriends, they sometimes want to what do you see now? I'm like, I see nothing. I am eating my food.
Right.
And I'm enjoying myself.
Yeah.
Just like you're not going to go ask your hairdresser to flat iron your hair while you're out to dinner.
Right. I bet that does get kind of a little exhausting. All right, I'm not the sideshow pony.
Right. Most of the time, my friends are such a great, beautiful people that they don't even say.
Know.
But I do laugh and just say, okay, office hours are closed.
So do you know Toby? Have you heard of this Toby? So she lives out way out in the country, and she has this labyrinth, and she clears entities that have attached to people. And this could be entities from, well, it is from like lifetimes ago. It's fascinating. I should put you in contact with her or to have her.
Yes.
It's just very interesting. Like I went and saw her and had like, I think it was 42 entities attached to me from a lifetime. I think it was back during the French Revolution.
Wow.
Yeah. And leading this crusade to stand up against the government. And it's interesting because I am very passionate about, politics and people like being misjudged. And so I'm like, where does that come from? And hearing that was such confirmation, like, oh, you were persecuted and subsequently killed for having these beliefs and trying to stand up for people.
Yes.
And interestingly enough, my grandfather, who was actually the person that led the charge to have me killed, and he's somebody that I had a very strange challenge relationship. We'll just leave it at that.
Yes.
And that he was in charge of it. So it was like he wanted in this lifetime to silence me, to make me doubt my worth, so that I wouldn't then become the powerful being that I actually really am. So it was very full circle how it all came together. And speaking of that, I think that's a good segue into past lives, because we took that training together.
Yes.
Have you been using that, or have you had clients that you do this for? Or?
Not as often as I'd like, but I have had a few clients with past life regression. For me personally, I truly believe it's the gateway to healing yourself at a deeper level, because there's so many things that we bring into this lifetime that we don't even recognize we're doing, or, even relations, like you said with your grandfather, like there's relationships that I have with certain people in my family that I'm like, get me away from them.
Right.
Like, and I'm like, why won't this work?
Yeah.
Why won't this work? And I used to guilt myself and push myself.
Their family.
Yes. Oh yeah. That's typical for, the previous generations. Now I'm like,
yeah. And Catholic.
yes. I say to my son, if you don't like them, don't worry about it.
Right. We can love everyone. It doesn't mean they need to be in our lives.
Right. With boundaries and everything. But past life regression, I had my very first, other than the training, I had my very first session with Dr. Matt, and it blew my mind. Enough that I blocked the person right when I walked out of my session, and I never returned. I never looked back. It was so vivid, so real. It explained everything that I have felt, that I thought through for 20 years. And even the relationship my sister that passed had with this person, it made all sense now. And so, not going into real specifics, but I believe that past life regression can be almost like an accelerated way of pushing through fears, pushing through some cycle breaking, some ancestry trauma, and even curses. There's, you see these families, it's just runs in the family. Why does it have to?
Right.
Let's figure this out.
Right.
And sometimes when, just like a diagnosis, when the human brain finally gets the why, we can deal with it. But as long as we don't have a why, how can we deal with it? Or a diagnosis, like you're sick, somehow, for some reason, once you finally get the label, you feel better.
Sure.
Because at least I'm not crazy. I have a label.
Isn't that that's so bizarre? I'd never really thought about that. It's true. There's a sense of relief because it's confirmation that, like, you're right. I'm not crazy. I told you there's something wrong. That's what I like to say. Like, I knew there was a tear in my shoulder. You know, like,
you're like,
because
I was
we
not.
do know.
We do.
We do know.
So past life regression is a great way, I believe, if someone is really struggling, say intimacy, have their whole life, regardless of a partner, they can come in and do past life regression, and they're really leading themselves.
Yeah.
We're just kind of administering through.
It's a guide.
Yeah, in a meditative state questions. And they can be like, oh, okay, I have something tangible to work with.
Yeah.
And I also think it can teach you that you can end contracts. So you can end a contract with your grandfather. So this does not reoccur.
Right. And I'm not passing it along to my children, like more generational traumas and, on and on and on.
Yes. And the other thing is that, you have multiple lifetimes. There's like a ton, most people do. So you can go back 2-3 times and get different past life regressions.
Sure.
And
I know, it's great.
Each one kind of tells you different things for different things, because I've had where I understand now why my grandmother that's living now, she really, we are very connected. Like, I can just sit in a room with her and just feel good. And I understand that now because of one other past life regression that I did actually in class. And so anyway, I think that it's a nice tool. It's not the only tool, but a nice tool to help heal something that has burdened you and basically possibly affected your life traumatically.
Yeah.
From moving forward.
I feel that for me with addiction, because it's like, I know I have all the tools, I have all the trainings, I know about alcohol and drugs for me. And yet, I would find myself right back in it, and like, what is this? I know it goes so much more beyond just addiction. Like, this is lifetimes of, and that I'm here to karmically heal that in this lifetime. And so that's been a huge awakening for me and super exciting, and like, fingers crossed, we got this one.
Thank God.
I do feel like this is my most important lifetime. I definitely feel like this is my awakened lifetime.
Because were you as spiritually intact in the previous lifetime?
Yeah, I don't think so.
I don't think I was either.
I don't think so. Yeah. So, because there's been so many, and I do believe like all of this is a remembrance.
Absolutely.
I'm just remembering who I was, or before, even in this lifetime, remembering who I was. Well, I really do appreciate you for coming and being here.
Sure, I
and
loved
sharing all of your story, because I believe everybody has a story, and yours is quite powerful.
Thank you.
And it was just really good to connect with you.
Good to connect with
thank
you
you.
too. Thank you.